Hello, friends. Hope you had a great weekend. Jason here for Chart Guys, taking a look at gold again. If you don't know who the Chart Guys are, we're a community of technical analysts. We love charts and we love talking about technical analysis and sharing setups, and this is sort of what we do. So let's take a look at gold. We're going to start in the weekly time frame because this is a new week. Let's start fresh. The thing that stands out to me right now on the weekly time frame is last week's inside bar. So a very nice setup, a contained range, and in fact this is a second inside bar that we have. The previous week was also an inside bar. So overall what that does is it tells us we are in an important tightening range, and once we break out of this little equilibrium we should have some substantial moves. Now we can go either to the upside or to the downside. Ultimately the charts are going to tell us we need to be prepared for all of those scenarios. So what we're going to do is look at the weekly time frame. Sure, we are consolidating. We're in a weekly downtrend, and we just set our last low, possibly locking in this lower high. It's going to be reflected more elegantly on the daily time frame. But what we're going to do is jump to the 3-day time frame, because that also shows us that equilibrium and that balance. So here's part of the last week's. Here's the current weekly equilibrium, and I'm really focused on right now the break of 1498 and 1477. This is the range of this bar here. Very important, and just showing that tightening range. And the tighter you squeeze price action, the more explosive it can be when it finally breaks out of that range. Now we're going to go to the daily time frame, and we're going to start talking about some important levels. So here is that inside bar, that 3-day and that weekly inside bar setup. We are in a daily downtrend, and we are trying to determine, are we going to continue this downtrend with a low under 1474, or are we going to set a new high above 1498? That would be a bull break of that weekly inside bar, the 3-day inside bar, and take a crack at that zone of resistance. Right now, the daily downtrend very much favors a continuation to the downside. So what that will look like is a break of 1477, then 1474. The only other support is 1459. On the upside, our zone of resistance is going to come right into play as soon as we break above 1498, if and when that happens. So keep an eye out on RSI levels at that point, because we don't have a lot of daily resistance in the way. On the 4-hour time frame, a little bit of back and forth here, and that is exactly what you expect to see when you're trading sideways inside bars. Here's our high, our low. We bounce around inside these levels. We're technically just going sideways with a slight bias toward the bears at a loss of 1485. As long as bears can stay underneath 1495, they will continue that downside action. And I'd like to see a little bit more pressure to the downside rather than just going sideways. The longer we go sideways, well, we run the risk of setting up another inside bar, possibly on the daily time frame with this range we've established here. And maybe we'll open that tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. We're talking a lot about different things, but the only thing that really matters right now is this 3-day inside bar and this weekly inside bar. 1498, 1477. The break in one of those two directions is going to dictate the rest of the week for us. So let's see what breaks first. Be prepared for both scenarios. Right now, the chart favors continued daily downside action.